Could you please rise and join me with the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Eads. Here. Mitz.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
Cummings. Goodemar.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hiller.
Here.
Page.
Here.
Mr. Eads, might you have a motion for us?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 27th claims report, the June 30th statement of income and expenses report, and the hotel motel tax annual report.
Here, second.
Second.
Any discussion about these three items?
We'll have to do minutes next meeting.
Apparently we'll have those the next meeting. Hearing none, Mr. Clerk?
Page.
Yes.
Hiller.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Goodemar.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Mitz.
Yes.
Eads.
Yes.
Okay, we're at the point where I have a little mayor's report, and I don't have a lot to say this evening. The first item that I'd like to mention is Christmas in July over the last 2 weekends that Main Street and Cochran Keating personally helped orchestrate, and it was successful. The merchants did well, and it was a first event, so possibly they'll do it again next year. I'd encourage any of you that see Cochran, and for those of you that don't know what he looks like, short with gray hair, stop him on the street if you get an opportunity and thank him for the work that he did on Christmas in July. We have a kind of running joke, Cochran and I do. He refers to himself as the elderly gentleman with the gray hair. The other item I wanted to mention was to Chief Miller. I've had a couple calls recently with folks mentioning that we've got signs in the boulevard now, which we do have an ordinance that covers that. It's primarily some of the out-of-state folks that are in town doing work after the storm. But it was requested of me that I request you to send somebody out and look for some of those signs. There are others too, garage sale signs on posts and newspaper signs, advertising billboards, and it's just kind of started to creep out of hand a little bit. And I would personally suggest that if any of your officers have an opportunity to run into those out-of-state folks, they might mention to whoever's in charge of a particular job site that we do have an ordinance and it's not the competition that's taking their signs away.
Yeah, I have a person lined up to do that. They'll be back to work tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay, good, good. And then the last thing I wanted to mention regards our meetings. Last meeting, a lot of folks were allowed to address the outdoor recreation section issue. And some of the addresses went on for a pretty good length of time, and I just want to remind you folks that we do have, and we have talked about this as a group, a 3-minute limit or less. I'll extend it to 5 if it's really necessary this evening. But if you have a prepared statement or ideas that you wanted to talk about tonight, just kind of rearrange in your mind what you'd like to do and prioritize so that it falls within that 3 to 5 minute category. The clerk here is going to kind of keep track of time, and he'll just say time whenever that time comes. So without any other things to report on, does anybody have any old business starting with Stan?
No.
Mr. Mitz?
No, thanks.
Wow.
I have one based on what you just said.
Okay.
And it's as much for clarification as it is for information for others. I asked Kelly about a sign that was on 105 in the boulevard, and she says that really the state is in charge of those. Now, does our city requirements cover it, and the state enforce it, or how does the mix go?
It's still within the city, so we still have jurisdiction over that. And then anything behind the curb, we're responsible for. as far as state highway is concerned too. So I would say maybe sometime you can tell me where it's at and I can look at it for certain.
Well,
I would say-
she's working on it. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
a major problem. I
Okay.
was just wondering if
Yeah,
it's something that,
If it's a sign, if you're talking about like what the mayor was talking about, then yes, our ordinances cover that. If it's someone wanting to install a sign or something, if it is within that right of way along the state highway, they have jurisdiction.
okay,
They have to approve those signs.
that answers it. Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Vance. Mr. Brown?
Nothing this evening.
Kevin?
Bike path, how's that going? This one.
It's going. We met with David Monk here, I don't know, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I don't remember when. Had a good meeting. He's had some follow-up discussion with the engineers that designed the plans. And currently Terry and I are looking at the plans, trying to get a handle on materials and timing and installation and that type of thing. So I'm hopeful that summer or early fall, we can get something going on that. Trying to get it all figured out, it's pretty complicated, really, with that trestle and bridge.
So when you say summer, more like early fall at this point, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Hey, Tim?
No
Tim?
business, Mr.
No
Mayor.
business. Well, then, we do come to that portion of the meeting that we allow the public to step forward to the table. If they've got a comment, please feel welcome. Who's interested this evening? Joe, come on up.
Hi, my name is Joe Brown. I would like to urge the council to vote no on the athletic fields. Last fall, or this spring actually, when I was walking around talking to constituents, I can't tell you the number of times I heard the fear in their voice when they spoke about rain in this area. When they talk about their basements getting flooded, their property getting damaged, and you know, when I've been to the council meetings, I hear that there's no money for flood problems, but yet there seems to be money for other projects. This, I think, is a 1.4 million?
What's that?
Is this projected a 1.4 million project, or what is this? The athletic fields?
Acquisition is $436,500.
And what's the cost to bring it up to the school? I mean, I heard 1.4, so I don't know if that's the right, that's what I'm asking. Is that the right cost?
Ballpark figure.
And if, you know, this kind of money is spent on these projects, and they're great projects. I mean, I had kids in the system, and I know what it's like to run around the different fields, but if this money is spent on these projects, then when will there be enough money for these flood projects? That's,
Can I respond a little bit to him?
Okay.
I'm sorry
This
you're
one's
not
cut into
aware
your time.
of this plan. It has put you at a disadvantage, but I'll try to help you up a little bit more. This money is available whether we have it, whether we do have it, change it or say it another way. This money will not be taking any money away from flood control or flood for operations. The plan is that it's on a pay-as-you-go with TIF money from that area. Now, we may borrow from ourselves to get it started, but not at the detriment of flooding. This was all laid out and explained in a previous council meeting or two. So what you're saying is really not the way it is envisioned.
okay. So if the TIF money came in, you couldn't use that for flooding?
No, you're correct, because TIF money has to be spent for capital improvements in the TIF district. It can't go out of the district. Am I on that?
Fairly accurate on that, yes.
And the district just includes Apple Tree, or where's the district at?
Basically, it is all part of something that has yet to be developed, because it's not of value to develop it until the actual need is there.
No, I thought a TIF district was mainly for blighted areas.
It's many, many more things throughout the United States. In some communities, you use it for high-level residential. It all depends, it's a contract. It all depends on how that contract is developed locally for local needs.
And usually when it went from high residential, my understanding was it took blighted areas which were, torn down.
That happens in
areas.
places,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So-
And you can read that in the paper. Washington DC is a great example.
Right. So the TIF district you're talking about hasn't been passed yet?
No, there's not a need for it yet.
Okay, so you're going to take TIF money out of a district that doesn't have a TIF in it, and there's not a need yet, but that's where the money's going to come for that project?
Well, let's say some people believed you and it didn't pass. Damn right, there's no need for it. So why should you start building superstructure down the road when you don't have your foundation put together?
Well, I'm not saying, I'm just trying to understand. Okay,
That it? Okay.
okay. So all the money eventually will come out of a TIF area when there's money, okay, so if that was a TIF area and other things were developed in that TIF area, then the money would come out of it. And I just don't know, I don't see much being developed out there.
I really can't speak to all the things you've missed and all the information that you missed at the different other presentations because it's hard for me to speak. I'm just going to have to say that that has been discussed and some direction has been developed.
The concept was to develop a TIF district in the undeveloped areas of Apple Tree, not the previously developed areas of Apple Tree.
Right, right.
Including the area where the Carl Clinic is going to relocate, and then the acreage is included in the area that we're going to have a proposed outdoor recreation site, as well as 27 undeveloped lots. The TIF consultant, 22 lots, the TIF consultant projected, was it $1.5 million over 23 years return on the TIF district, based on what's proposed already in that area and what potential there is for building out.
Does the Carl area grandfather into the TIF?
No, the Carl area doesn't. It just will, if it's decided to, it will be included in the TIF. If it's not decided, then there won't be a TIF. But it's proposed to include that entire area there, the 40 acres plus the undeveloped lots in Apple Tree.
Right, well, I mean, they've already planned, they bought the area, they're planning to build in
Right.
it. So if you do create a TIF now, whatever they build in it is part of that TIF.
That's right.
Okay.
And that's the proposed income. I've just been told it's time.
You realize a TIF does not increase anybody's taxes.
Oh, I understand that. It just takes the money from the taxes that would normally go to the tax base to the city to do what they will with it.
We do need to let somebody else sit at the table now. You just walked in, but after I reminded everybody that we have a 3 to 5 minute request on public participation. Brandon here is kind of trying to tighten that up for us by watching the clock. But
Well, that's fine.
thanks, Joe. Anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor Corey and the councilman. My name is Greg Hanselman. I spoke here a couple weeks ago. I'd like to just take maybe a minute to talk on behalf of the Monticello Soccer Club. Resolution 2009-36 is a wonderful opportunity that you have before you, and we hope that you will support this, not only for soccer, but for baseball, softball, football, etc. It's almost a purpose-built piece of property that, I wouldn't say has fallen in your laps, but has been presented before you. I think, and we feel, we had a board meeting last night, that it's a tremendous chance to bring some recreation areas to the city of Monticello. And You have a fiscally responsible plan that you can move forward with if approved this evening, and we fully support that and look forward to a positive vote this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Anybody else? Public participation? Just about over. Okay. Well, then it's time to move on to new business. Starting with Resolution 2009-36, the proposed acquisition of 30.964 acres of Greg Millage property to be used for outdoor recreation purposes. Floyd, could you kind of recap what's transpired for some of those that aren't totally up to speed with this proposal?
Okay. Resolution 2009-36 is a resolution that allows us to enter into a purchase agreement or contract for the purchase of real estate with Greg Millage. And the parcel is described as Lot 402 of Apple Tree 4th Subdivision. It's 30.964 acres. The parcel is already annexed into the city. It's currently zoned RE1 residential. According to our zoning ordinance, that does allow for a parks and recreation facility. The asking price from Mr. Millage, and I tried to work him on this unsuccessfully, is $436,500. That comes out to approximately $14,100 per acre. Contract that we're approving is Exhibit A within the information that you have this evening. And basically, just to go over this very briefly, it's a lot of legal language in there, but it says that within two business days of the agreement, we'll put $1,500 down as to be held by our city attorney. And like other purchases, the taxes are the seller's expense up to closing. It talks in there that we'll be acquiring, if approved, we'll be acquiring the 30 plus acres in an as-is condition. And it calls for a closing of on or before October 15th, 2009, which is about 2.5 months from now. It was discussed previously, this is aside from the resolution and contract, to create a TIF district as a means of paying for the acquisition and some of the construction. Once a plan is developed, we don't have a plan. We've had conceptual discussions and conceptual drawings and that type of thing, but we do not have a plan. I assume that'll be forthcoming if this is approved this evening. The TIF district included the 22 residential in Apple Tree and the Carl property, which is 10 acres. And as we pointed out, the TIF consultants said that this would qualify for a TIF, and that it would, you were accurate in that it would create $1.5 million to go towards reimbursing the city for the acquisition and or construction. And that's after making the school whole. The TIF district, the situation with the school, all of this comes later. All these discussions come later. There are public hearings required, notifications required, all of those things. So, like I said, all of that is after the fact and similar to our other TIF discussions and meetings and public hearings and decisions. So, regardless of the outcome tonight, well, I guess if this is approved tonight, we still have a lot of work ahead of us. And we'll start the TIF discussions tomorrow if it's approved this evening. Because like I said, we're closing 2.5 months, so we want to get that underway. So really, I don't know what more there is to talk about, from my side of things, unless you have some questions.
Well, there may be just that, gentlemen.
And this was all approved, or not approved, this was all reviewed by our city attorney, and him and Greg's attorney went back and forth for a while, so anyway.
add my 2 cents. I mean, we've been over it back and forth, who's in favor, who's opposed to it. I'm one of those ones in favor of it. However, I think that this is the first step, and we need to, after we purchasing the property, ensure that the TIF is in place and running smoothly, and we have a plan prior to even touching the land. I don't want to do this on a prayer. If this doesn't work out, we've got the land as an asset that we can turn around and sell and, liquidate it. I really feel strongly about not jumping in until, that TIF. And I know that's not up tonight to talk about, but, that's important to me individually, that we're taking, in my opinion, we're taking an opportunity that's come before us, that this land is cheaper than anything else we had before. It's smooth, it's ideal for it. However, there's other pieces that need to work out to make this whole thing work, and I just don't want to jump in with all our feet and then a year from now being saying, oh my gosh, we got ourselves in too deep here. So
I don't
that's my
expect
opinion.
any of us to have the answer to this question, but I feel obliged to pose it. Where does the city stand should the TIF not be successful? I hear ringing silence.
I would be in favor of liquidating the land.
I understand.
You can always farm it.
Yeah, well, there's numerous things that could be done with it, but how is it paid for if there's no TIF?
That is, right there is my issue. I said before, if we're going to do this, just buy it. But the TIF has a lot of if people, Carl, great, but if the other lots aren't sold or are sold very slowly, how are we going to, what are we going to do? What's the plan?
Well,
I'm a planner.
Yeah, I
And if
understand.
it's buy the ground, set up the TIF, and when the TIF generates money, then we build whatever we build. That seems to be more fiscally responsible than buying the ground, setting up the TIF, build it all, and then hope the TIF produces so we can pay ourselves back.
The only thing that I could respond to that with, and it's not necessarily in defense of the whole concept, but it is in a way, it's a very limited TIF. It's not going to rely heavily on a huge area building out. And in a period of 23 years, I would really find it unlikely that 22 lots aren't going to build out. It's that defined an area.
Right.
But I do understand and agree with what you're saying. It's difficult to project and then use money on those projections. I know there's a time frame that the TIF consultant plugs figures in, and it's not instantaneous. It's over a 23-year span, and he's not saying 22 lots are going to be sold in 5 years.
Right.
That all those projections are based on a fairly controlled, 1 or 2 a year. And he's still coming up with $1.5 million in 23 years.
But if we do in fact include Carl in it, we know Carl's in there, and that'll start generating revenue in a couple of years, theoretically.
No less.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't discussed the other leg to this triangle that the consultant brought up, and it's after we own the land, we can apply for several different grants from federal and state for development, but you can't do that if you don't own the land. You can't apply for the grants.
And taking Mike's philosophy and applying it towards that statement, you can't count on those grants either, for sure. You can apply for them, and it'll be great if we get them, but you can't take that to the bank. So we have to have a contingency in our minds how this is all going to work out.
Well, do we have any idea of what the operations and maintenance costs might be? Has anybody checked with these other places that
It's
have
all
these
going to
fields?
depend upon how elaborate we go with our facility and everything. I mean, how quickly we're going to jump into it. Are we going to ease into it? Are we gonna do it all at once? I mean, these are all questions
Yeah.
that we have to answer later. I mean, we're gonna have to sit down and, if it's approved tonight, we're gonna have to sit down and start planning. So then that's when that'll all be determined based upon what we're gonna do.
I think one other issue to go along with what Vince said, you know, with the third leg, I would say there's a fourth leg involved with the volunteers that we will have to be able to use the facilities that will put forth their efforts. I'm sure the soccer clubs, the other traveling baseball leagues, they'll be more than willing to help. And in addition to that, we've also had expressed interest from corporate sponsors for money towards putting the fields up and getting them running. So there's enough interest there, and there has been for a long time, that I feel it's a golden opportunity as far as I'm concerned. And when the first TIF district was created here in Monticello, out north of town, I was a little skeptical myself as to, well, what is this all about? But as I read further and studied and then became a council member and we helped create TIF District 2, I've seen that TIF districts do work, that a considerable amount of money can come in over a period of time, and that TIF money can be used for infrastructure. I wouldn't necessarily call this a blighted area, but one of the terms that the Dan Walker uses is areas that are underutilized. And at this point, that almost 31 acres is underutilized, and to be included in the TIF district along with the lots that are in Apple Tree 3 there and then the Carl lot, I feel that in the long run, the TIF paying for it, in essence, we can use our own money and then pay ourselves back, just like our intentions are with the water tower project, if I'm not mistaken. So we can use our own money and then turn around and pay ourselves back as it comes in. So, you know, your contention of, well, we'd rather pay for it with our own money right now and then see what, basically, that's what we can do. We can pay with our own money now, pay ourselves back. If it doesn't come to fruition, well, we've got some fairly valuable property that we can sell. I think it's in the years I've been on and the plans I've seen and the different properties that we've looked at, this is by far the best. And, you know, there's plenty of support in the community, not just from, you know, the clubs and the traveling teams, but from many, many people saying, you know, it's about time we had something like this. So many other towns took the step a long time ago, and they're reaping the benefits from it now. The tournament, I believe they had over the 18th and 19th, try to get a room, go to the restaurants. You know, that brought a lot of people to town, and that helps. And by having a premier facility, that'll just increase. That'll just increase. So I see a lot more positives to it right now than I ever had. So that's why I'm picking it.
I've heard twice that if it doesn't work out, we'll have a piece of property to sell. So am I to understand, I want to understand this and make sure we're all on the same page. The plan right now is to buy it, set up a TIF, and then wait? Because you can't sell it if you've already put stuff on.
I can answer, in my opinion, the plan is to buy it now, set up the TIF, don't do anything with it until it's set up. We're not necessarily going to generate revenue immediately from the TIF, but things can get built. You know, we can start, as things starting to get built, you can project that those taxes are going to come in the next year or two because the structure's already there. It just takes a while for the taxes to catch up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if the TIF doesn't work out, if it doesn't get passed or something like that, my intention would be to turn around and sell the ground.
At one point, I'd like to interject with regarding comment you made about selling a piece of ground if things are built on it. Yeah, I would suspect there's going to be a minimal amount of building actually going on. You'll have fences,
Well,
they can be
fences, ball
taken out
fields, and all
easily.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you can pull a light pole and a fence up like that. So you might have a blockhouse for restrooms and concessions, but it's not going to be a massive building that's going to be difficult to sell ground.
I never.
So, we would, go ahead,
Once the TIF is
once the
in
TIF
place.
is in place,
Well, I'm not saying we're going to. This is a discussion that's going to
Yeah.
have to come before the council when that time comes. We're not making that decision this evening.
I had not envisioned any hard structure being done maybe for a couple of years. I do envision the grass being sown, and 2/3 of that property is not ball fields, it's soccer fields, and it's other things, which can be used with
Minimal impact.
minimal impact. Yeah, I agree with you. I did not envision, we turned right around and said, let's go. That's not, just taking a chance of it with this opportunity.
Any further discussion? Gentlemen on the right side.
Thank you.
Can I have a point of clarification, because, if you do go out and buy these fields and then build the structures, then wait 20 years to get that money back, you are in essence taking that money away from something that could have been used for sewer, or for water treatment, retention or whatever.
In the short term.
And then you'll be paid back over 20 years. So that money is being taken out of the coffers.
In the short term. Mr. Mitz?
Lloyd, have you looked over Dan Walker's TIF projection very carefully? I wish
I've looked them over, but I
wish
rely.
he were here. I would like to challenge him. I think he's greatly optimistic. If all 22 houses were built, the city's share of the taxes would be roughly $25,000. The city's share, 57 cents, I think our share is. I'm a little concerned about the payback schedule. I assume on October the 15th that we will be taking money out of reserves to buy the land. Or are we going to make a loan?
That'll be a decision for you folks to make.
Okay, if we do, if we take it out of reserve, how much is it going to cost to develop the property? We've got infrastructure, you've got water, sewer, so forth and so on. There could be a few $100,000 or where's that money coming from?
And that too will be a decision this council is going to have to consider when the time comes.
Certainly impacts us long-term and short-term.
Bill, the biggest impact on Walker's report is the $3 million investment of Carl's.
We don't know what the assessment on their property is going to be yet.
And we're just going by what they said they're going to spend. You're correct.
Anyway, I'm really conflicted on this issue, Mayor. I have 2 grandchildren that I hope to be here to watch them play. We do need baseball diamonds. No question of that. The soccer fields, yes, we need them. We haven't done anything about finding any place else, so I guess we need to get them out there. That's a concern I have, that we haven't done anything about that for the last 6 years. So I see a need for, definitely a need for baseball diamonds, and I don't know where else we could find them realistically.
Any further discussion? Black.
Well, just looking at it, looks to me like we're talking $1 million out there, okay? That's $1 million, so what? Now, we got all these kids that's gonna wanna play ball. We're all rivers on, we're gonna get them across the river. Then we're gonna have to build a bridge on across that road, because we can't have them riding across the road and blacktop on out. What additional expense is that?
Well, actually, I was just talking to Floyd before the meeting about that. I'm out there at the ball diamonds all the time, and there might be 100 kids playing ball out there, and I see 2 bikes. I just don't think that there's that many kids right now that are biking to their ball games and everything.
So does that mean the little leaguers are gonna stay out at the tourist preserve?
Well, I think that that's a recreation call. I mean, there is still gonna be ball fields out there, so, and that's a Department of Recreation call where they slot everyone, you know. But this concept of bikes, people being able to bike out there, yeah, the older ones probably can bike out there because we will have the bike path. But I just don't see that many bikes when I'm out there with my kids, that kids have ridden to their actual ball games. I don't know if anyone else has had a different.
I know my kid always rode his bike to the ball games, but you're right, there were only a small handful of bikes at the game, mine being one of them.
And again, Mike hit on the key, you know?
Yeah.
TIF, the biggest word's if.
Yeah.
That part scares me, the if part.
If I can just add one more thing.
Yes.
If the land is bought, now's the opportunity for the different organizations and everything to fundraise and everything and help make this a reality, in my opinion, that this is going to be a huge project for the city. And like Ben said, there might be grant money or anything like this, but we can't bear all the expense.
Right. Well, I think at this point, the chair would entertain a motion, and there's always room for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2009-36 and include in the minutes and in my motion that our intentions are, upon purchase of this property, if this resolution is passed, that we create a TIF district to help provide the revenue to reimburse the acquisition costs and construction costs associated with the project.
I'll second that.
Any seconds? Any further discussion you'd like to pick up? Now's the time. Stan?
Wade, Tim stated that motion. Is that setting in stone how we choose to pay for it up front?
No. I heard nothing that said any stipulation on how it's paid for, other than we're going to start it, we're going to develop a TIF. Okay, barring any further discussion, it's time for a vote.
Goodemar,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
Hiller,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes?
Eads,
Yes.
Mitts,
Present.
Murdoch,
No.
So we have 2 noes and 4 yeses, and a present is considered a vote with a majority. That motion passes. There's some work to be done post haste. Moving along. Folks, I'll give you a chance to get up and go out if you need to. Now, let's see, we have Resolution 2009-37, and that is to release closed session minutes for public review. And this is the time that I read which closed session minutes we are releasing, starting in the year 2000 with September 25th and November 13th, and 2001, February 26th, March 12th, June 25th, July 9th, August 27th, September 24th, October 9th, and in 2002, January 14th, February 11th, March 25th, May 13th, May 28th, September 23rd, November 12th, and November 25th. And the chair would entertain a motion concerning this resolution.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
A second? Take your choice. Brandon, your call. Any discussion about these minutes? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Murdock.
Yes.
Mitts,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Kudemar.
Yes.
Thanks, gentlemen. Now, we come to ordinance 2009-38, setting a public hearing for SSA number 3, Kirby Hospital, and I thought I would try and clarify this for everybody, but I'm not going to. I'm going to allow our superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Ordinance 2009-38 is in regards to the city discussion with Kirby Hospital recently about their new project north of town. And they have approached the city about the possibility of us issuing some SSA bonds to help offset the cost of infrastructure for their project. Keep in mind, this is not costs related directly to the hospital itself. This is for street, water, sewer, and other stormwater-related expenditures to be able to access their facility. During those discussions, the city expressed interest in working with the hospital on this. And we've had discussions with legal counsel as to how this will work as far as the funding is concerned. And what this is this evening is an ordinance that sets the public hearing. Nothing is created until after a public hearing is held as required by law. So ordinance 2009-38, there is lots of language in there, and it pretty much addresses the concerns and the interest expressed during our previous discussions. And some of the, just a very brief summary, it talks about the city has preliminarily agreed to the SSA financing. This financing will not exceed $2 million and for a term of no longer than 40 years. The project area is within the city limits currently. It's plus or minus 100 acres in size. The debt for these bonds will be paid by the city levying a special service area tax upon the subject property, which they have and in the future will agree to. And this SSA tax is in addition to any other taxes that are levied in that area as well. As I mentioned, this ordinance is setting a public hearing and talks about the notices that will be provided. That public hearing is going to, if this is approved, will be held at 7 o'clock on Monday, August 24th, right here at the municipal building. So that'll be during our second council meeting in August. Exhibit A that goes along with this ordinance provides a legal description that is a few pages in length. It also talks within the notice of public hearing that the city's credit will not be involved. That's one of the things that we discussed. And then there's also an illustration there as to the subject parcel as well. So basically, as I said, this is not creating an SSA. It's basically setting the public hearing and authorizing us to go ahead and provide the public notices that are required by law for this.
Am I to assume then that once that public hearing and those formalities are complete, then it'll come back to us to actually create the SSA?
Correct.
Okay.
That'll be by way of a future ordinance.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion regarding ordinance 2009-38.
So moved.
Tim?
Second.
Kevin, seconds. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, I got one quick question. The area, because the legal descriptions mean nothing to me as far as the area goes. And there is the map down there, but that's even, is it the whole entire complex out there that will be inside the SSA?
It is at this time, yes.
So it's the road and all the future development area and everything?
At this time, yes.
And you're saying at
project,
this time because?
Well, that could change later on, but once this ordinance is in place, whatever size that SSA is, there will be a tax levy to meet that debt service for that particular year. So we set a levy, that levy would be set regardless of how many acres and size it is.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But the project itself is for the infrastructure coming off of 47 or North Market Street.
Right.
Into where the project is being proposed. It doesn't include infrastructure throughout the 108 acres or anything.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none. Clerk? Roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Pillar,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Eads,
Yes.
Mitts,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Kittlemeyer.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are at the Alderman's report time. And we'll start with Mr. Hayes this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's made a practice to read something from Abraham Lincoln, this being the 200th anniversary of his birth. I chose this one from a speech that he made February 22nd, 1861, and it was at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where you just have to remember that it was just approximately a short 85 years before that the Founding Fathers put things together. Of course, Abraham Lincoln was an extreme element or person who felt that the Founding Fathers really were guided and set up our nation as no other had been up to that point or has been since. What he says here is, I am filled with deep emotion at finding myself standing here in the place where were collected together the wisdom, the patriotism, the devotion to principle from which sprang the institutions under which we live. You have kindly suggested to me that in my hands is the task of restoring peace to our distracted country. I can say in return, sir, that all the political sentiments I entertain have been drawn, so far as I've been able to draw them, from the sentiments which originated and were given to the world from this hall in which we stand. I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence. I have often pondered over the dangers which were incurred by the men who assembled here and adopted that Declaration of Independence. I have pondered over the toils that were endured by the officers and soldiers of the Army who achieved that independence. I have often inquired of myself what great principle or idea it was that kept this Confederacy so long together. It was not the mere matter of the separation of the colonies from the motherland, but something in that declaration giving liberty, not alone to the people of this country, but hope to the world for all future time. It was that which gave promise that in due time the weights should be lifted from the soldiers of all men, and that all should have an equal chance. This is the sentiment embodied in that Declaration of Independence. Now, my friends, can this country be saved upon that basis? If it can, I will consider myself one of the happiest men in the world, if I can help save it. If it can't be saved upon that principle, it will be truly awful. But if this country cannot be saved without giving up that principle, I was about to say I would rather be assassinated on this spot than to surrender it. Under Parks and Recreation, just want you to know the driving range is open and the brush off-site is open. I think everybody's familiar with 4 p.m. to sunset for weekdays, noon to sunset for weekends. These will be in effect till the end of October. $4 for a large bucket of golf balls and $3 for a small. And of course, we're closed during inclement weather. And just to mention again, the recycle box is located out there. Swimming pool is open daily from noon to 7. The pool has now been open as of today 58 days. So far we've had 9,532 people attending. We have 1,249 individual members as of today. We have taught swim lessons, 415. We've had 22 private rentals. August 9th is the final day of the season, so we've only got about 2 more weeks for the pool to be open. So if you want to have a pool party, I don't know if they're all filled or not. The Monticello Marlin swim team finished the season with a 4-3 dual meet record, and this past Saturday up at Paxton, they finished in 3rd place at the conference meet. JFL practice kicks off tonight We have 109 fifth through eighth graders participating this season. Robert Goldford is the head coach, and he has been for several seasons for the 7th and 8th graders. Bruce Zindars is the head coach of the 5th and 6th grade team. And recreation soccer registration continues through tomorrow for use in grades kindergarten through 8th. And of course, we always need head coaches at all levels. And that's all I have, Mr.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, just a few things. Next Friday, come uptown for August 1st Friday on the Square. So another First Friday, great deals, delicious meals. And here's something I didn't know. Don't forget, Brown Bag is now serving Friday night dinners. So plenty of fun for the family. First Friday is held in Monticello downtown from 5 to 9. It's not too late to sign up for the Monticello Day Bus to the Illinois State Fair on Tuesday, August 18th. Tickets are $16 per seat, which includes admission. Come see 10 organizations and entertainment from DJ Williams, guitarist Steven Schroeder, and a local speed painter and local rock band, Three Guys and an Old Dude. There's a great weekend romance getaway package up for grabs at the Monticello Day at the State Fair also, so that's pretty cool. Through the generosity of local business, the weekend includes a night stay at the Best Western, tickets to the Main Street Chocolate Fantasy, a pamper basket for Wacky Nackies, dinner at Three Ravens, a basket of goodies from County Market, Zimmer Galleries has something in there, Pearls and More. I'm not going to read them all because it's a long list, but pretty much every business on downtown has put something in there. Monticello Main Street is hosting the first annual Back to School Carnival, August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. So that's a carnival. 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Come for carnival rides, food, and fun in the municipal building parking lot. More details on this event will be released closer to the event date. And remember, there is something going on every weekend in Monticello, which is really true anymore. It seems like there's stuff going on in the square every single weekend.
You know, one thing I wanted to add to what you just read, if you have any inclination at all to go to the state fair, $16. Round trip, somebody else drives, plus you get in for that cost, it's the way to go. You don't have to worry about parking over there, it's just terrific. If you want to go to the state fair, the bus that Kevin just mentioned is ideal.
And one thing else in community development, I guess, that I've noticed is the chamber's put out on these half-price deals, like in Champaign and everything, coupons, and they put together different packages and everything for outsiders to come into town, and maybe they eat for free at their half price at Three Ravens or Brown Bag or something like that. So they're on the website, so they're really doing a good job of trying to bring them in. So it seems like it's busy down there every weekend. So.
Thank you, Kevin. Mike?
I have nothing in regards to what's going on in the city because I've been gone to band camp. The high school is down at band camp. The band down there, they're working hard. They do a great show. Everybody will be happy with it.
They got a break on the weather too.
Yes,
typically
it's been
98 degrees this time.
It has been gorgeous. We're all very pleased with that.
Good.
Sweat.
They had Easter, Mike?
Yes, they are down at Easter in Charleston.
I have two things that I could ask you about Floyd personally, but I think there are things that I want to share and others might be interested in. One of them, and these are simple.
Thank you.
They seem to me. One of them has to do with streetlights. I was going through our budget, not our budget, what we paid. How do we pay Illinois Power directly for streetlight? So if several are out and they don't know about it, we're paying for them, but they're out. So if streetlights are out, it would really do us, because we're already paying for it, to call you and tell you where the streetlights are out.
Call the front desk and tell them, or go to the website. Our website has a place to report a streetlight being out also. And just fill out the form, it comes up here, where we just forward it then to Ameren. And they get on it, just like that.
So there is a system.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Edwards and Burdette Court is the one that I was called about.
Sometimes police notice them and let us know. And
Officers fill out
Some-
forms quite a bit during.
They do?
Yeah,
Good.
the night shift guy.
Well, there is a system. We'll use it. Next thing, I was asked about how far do we mow on either side of the hard surface of the bike path? And we're talking about the one that is completed now.
I'm not gonna give you the footage. I think we just mow just a swath, down and back, I think's about it. So probably 3-4 feet at the
Okay,
most.
it's reasonable.
Yeah.
How much of that do we actually own?
66 feet.
Oh, okay, well,
We own go ahead.
I had some people ask how they get rid of the thistles. I was gonna ask them if they walk off the path and walk down to where the thistles are, because I don't think they're right on the road, but they are seeding out. And in deference to them that walk off the road, that was his concern.
We, it's kind of a long history of, it's not really a success story. We, instead of us mowing that area between, and I'll just be general here, between the Railway Museum tracks and the bike path, instead of us going out and spending the time and energy to mow it, we thought, why don't we plant that in prairie? We probably listened to David too long, and he finally got to us. And so, I forget the guy's name, Nixon, helped us with Pheasants Forever to find some people to go out there and plant that in what was supposed to become prairie. And I know in several conversations with David, it takes a long time to get a good prairie established. So we keep being told that prairie is coming and it's getting more and more like prairie. But in the meantime, there are folks, especially the ones that back up to it, that are unhappy with it because some of it isn't prairie, some of it is weeds. And I can't tell the difference in some of the plants, whether they're actual prairie plants or weeds. David could, or somebody else could, but we keep being told that it's getting more and more like prairie. And so we keep our fingers crossed, hoping that that's what we end up with, because that was our ultimate goal. But I think we're going to have to get the conservation folks over here to help us identify some of the plants and make an effort to go out there. I forget Mr. Carnes, what he was concerned about. Was it?
Hemlock.
Hemlock, that's it. We couldn't find any hemlock. We did have conservation come over, because if that was out there, we wanted to get rid of it. And they couldn't find any anywhere. So, but the thistles, I'm sure the folks know what they're talking about on the thistles. But maybe sometime we can get somebody that knows what they're doing to come over and help us identify what's truly not prairie, and maybe get rid of that.
There should really be no expectation that the thing is going to look like your front yard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only way that can happen is if we spend a lot of time and energy in mowing, and you hate to mow an area that's kind of rural-like there.
Well, yeah,
it's kind of natural.
Appropriate
Yeah.
to go the prairie route.
But I wish we had some prairie fertilizer or something that could help speed the prairie process up.
Buffalo chips, brown buffalo chips.
I'm just making, joking around on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Canada thistle is a noxious weed, and that should not be there. Thistles are Canada thistle, it should be there. Some of the other weeds, like bragweed, can be allergenic. So knocking them off, we tend not to pull them up, but to cut them off. That's diplomatic to do. Hemlock is poisonous, along with plastic. Anything that belongs to the carrot family. So that should be gotten rid of. But the prairie does take 5 or 10 years to establish. It depends on how many border leaves you have in the cut. They come slowly.
Thanks, David. Lyle, what have you got?
I can't give you much of a report. I've been vacationing down in Kentucky, going to the Abe Lincoln sites.
Really? Okay. Mr. Metz?
John has nothing special for the police, so I'll pass on that.
Okay.
I do have a couple things. Floyd, do we have in our plans a guy cleaning out the storm sewers? Drains around, as I walk around town, there's a lot of them got, debris, grass clippings and leaves and so forth.
We try to clean those.
I know we're busy, but
But, I mean, seriously, we do try to clean those. But this rain we got the other night, what night was it, Friday or Saturday night? Friday night, I noticed has washed a lot of them, filled them back up with leaves and twigs and things, so we're gonna be out and about. Somebody down your ward called me today and talked about a couple, and the guys are gonna go out and take care of them.
I cleaned a couple of them out myself today. I just wondered if we had that in our plans.
Yeah.
Then the last thing, are we considering looking at a skate park and utilizing the spot that the school basically considered possibility of utilizing? Or is that not in recreation plans?
Maybe I can address that a little bit. I think that is in recreation plans. Spring, that maybe.
Lots of grass.
Yeah, I've had more than one call on that, and I guess it's my cue to reiterate that we do have an ordinance that says to obstruct a waterway anywhere in the city with grass clippings or anything else is against the city ordinance. And that's not really the issue. The issue is consider the effect of exhausting your grass clippings and your leaves out into the street on everybody when it plugs up a storm drain. It's just simple.
Maybe a note to the mowers in town. We have a lot of people who mow lawns, and they've got the big mowers, and when they make that first round out, they throw a lot of grass on the street.
Not a bad idea. We can talk about that. Stan?
Nothing new to report from the fire department, but just on a personal note, excited about the football season starting us. JFL has started their practices today, and Monticello's football team with their new coach starts practices tomorrow, so just excited.
Interesting.
Camp first, and then a week off, and then double sessions.
Then 2 days.
Yeah, those beloved 2 days, so just kind of excited about that.
Thanks, Dan. Well, that leaves one guy left here for a report.
Okay, that won't be long. You noticed between Buchanan and Chase Street, there's been lots of activity over the last few weeks. The guys have hauled huge amounts of material away, and the detention area is about completed now as far as grading is concerned. We'll still have to come in and do the final grading, but the rough end and everything is finished, and we'll have to do the seeding and that type of thing. And then we're also going to rework the covered ditches and reseed those as well. So that still remains to be finished. It was unfortunate, if you read the paper last week, seen the letter to the editor in there. That was written, it's my understanding, by the mother of one of the occupants, and they rent the house, by the way. Mother doesn't live there. And the reason I say it's unfortunate is because Terry went out specifically and met with the occupants of the home and the owner of the home to explain to them what our plans were for what we figured they assumed was their yard. Keep in mind all of our activities either on our property or Railway Museum property, not private property. So they were definitely confused as to where their property lines were at, and Terry was able to help locate the pins for them, offer to move their pool, clothesline, that type of thing. So after all that, then the letter comes out, kind of makes us look like the bad guys, and I was impressed that we went out, not at my direction. The guys chose themselves to go out and communicate ahead of time. So, and the construction happened the day the newspaper went out, so I don't know if there's any letters to the editor this week on us getting even with them, but that was not the intent at all. And I was pleased that our folks went out and communicated with the residents. They didn't have to do that. So anyway, enough said. You might have seen the guys, our public works guys, turn sidewalk out in front of the senior building next door today. They're getting ready to put an underground tile for the downspouts in and then re-pour the sidewalk over there. And that project's going real well. If you haven't stuck your head in recently, you should do so. All the lights and fans and painting and all that's about to wrap up. So we're coming down the home stretch. And then if you need a rain, I guess schedule the oil and chip crew to come in. They're supposed to start tomorrow, and I see by the forecast it's supposed to rain. So barring rain, they're supposed to get started oil and chipping tomorrow. So if it rains, hopefully that will put them down one day. But the rock's here and their scales are here and they're ready to go and we're on their list. So that's coming pretty quick.
Might I suggest that folks that don't have off-street parking strongly consider moving their vehicles prior to that point, because they're going to get oil sprayed on them if they don't. Is that correct?
Or they'll be towed
Or
at their
they'll be
expense.
towed, yes. As a matter of fact, I think that was
In the
put
paper.
out in the paper. Right.
That's all I have.
That sounds good, thank you. Hearing no further discussion.
Well, one that had the minutes over here about the storm sewers.
Okay.
The property north of me has got the big storm sewer going through it.
Oh, yeah.
That lid come up the other day and 5 city employees come crawling out. So somebody's in there looking.
Yeah. That must have been a sight.
Scary sight, wasn't it?
You know, I'm gonna tag on that one. Has anyone made a count of the raccoons that are in the storm sewer?
I don't know if there's been many counting the raccoons or counting what the raccoons are leaving in the sewers. There's probably more of that counting going on than anything.
Rich, could you do that study?
No, but I have enlisted someone else to do it. They keep talking about it, and I say, why don't you just prove it to me and tell me how many are out there?
I think he's serious.
Oh, I'm dead serious.
I know.
There are hundreds.
So I know there are.
All I said was, don't get near them, they'll bite.
And they are rascals. Well, hearing no further discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Second.
Seconds. This meeting is